Down the stretch we go in the Stanley Cup playoff run. Will Utah make it in, or will they be left wanting? Robyn and I are going to talk about that, plus an Oilers preview coming up on the Locked On Utah Hockey Club podcast.
You are Locked On Utah Hockey Club, your daily podcast on the Utah Hockey Club, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome into the Locked On Utah Hockey Club podcast. I'm veteran NHL voice Tom Callahan, alongside longtime team analyst Robyn Leaño, and we are the team that brings you the Locked On Utah Hockey Club podcast every single day. We appreciate you making us your first listen when it comes to all things UHC. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. We are into the stretch run now for the Utah Hockey Club and every other NHL team. We're past the trade deadline, into the stretch run, and coming off a big win for Utah over Vancouver on the weekend. One more game in a 3-game road swing. And Robyn, the middle of April is going to be here before we know it. And all of a sudden it's going to be playoff time. And this is really, number one, the most fun, but certainly the most intense portion of the schedule.
Oh, I feel like a lot of people are probably going to have their the little hairs in the back of their neck start sticking up because they're starting to feel a little scared, a little nervous, a lot of maybe excited. Every single emotion happens around this time, and even though your team might not be in yet or whatever, I think around this time, Tom, is where you can start using the term quote playoff torture. It's my favorite emotion, and even though it takes life, it feels like it takes years off my life. It is my favorite emotion because it's just like it gives you that connection, and that's the most exciting part.
It'll give you gray hair, or it'll just make you lose hair, or you're going to tear out your hair.
I got a little story for you, and it tells you an example of how exactly crazy it is. When I was at the U of A, I would carry a fitness band on me, right? So I would kind of keep track of where my heart rate would go. While during my college years, was like the peak of my hometown San Jose Sharks playoff height, and every single time they went through all that level of torture, my watch would tell me, "Hey, are you okay? Your heart rate's like at 180." And I'm like, "No, I'm not okay." But hey, you know what? But at the same time, I miss that feeling ever since both, the Coyotes, now Utah, making their way in, and the Sharks not being quote playoff teams yet anymore.
And Robyn, I'm sure you know this, but the first womp of the NHL season does go to the Sharks. They have been eliminated officially from playoff contention. They are the first team in the NHL this year to win that designation. They are last in the West with 45 points. And yeah, they're the first ones out this year. So happy trails, 24-25 San Jose Sharks.
Hey, it doesn't. That didn't surprise me. But
yeah, well, I don't think it surprised a lot of people.
It didn't surprise anyone. I mean, I will say I feel like they have a better future than Chicago, but that's for a whole nother conversation.
Yeah, well, and Chicago is just starting the tear down, right? The Sharks are at least a couple years into it, but so let's talk a little bit about looking down the stretch here, because for the Utah Hockey Club, and this is really the important thing, is the schedule here coming down the stretch. So after they complete this 3-game road swing, they're in Edmonton on Tuesday night. We're going to preview that game later in the show. They're home for 3: Buffalo, Tampa, Detroit. Then they are on the road for the rest of the month. They will do a back-to-back Thursday, Friday, Tampa, then Florida. And then on Sunday, they play Chicago before coming home for 5 games to start April at home. Calgary, LA Kings, Winnipeg Jets, Seattle Kraken, Nashville Predators. Then they finish on the road, and this is a tough swing, 3 in a row, starting with Dallas, which is going to be a real test. And then Nashville, St. Louis, back-to-back Monday, Tuesday. And Robyn, as I've pointed out, the way things are kind of playing out right now, that game on April 15th, that Tuesday game against St. Louis, might actually determine if one or both of these teams can make the postseason.
Yeah, it really, it really does matter. And I think that's, to me, like why I looked at some of those games last night, Tom, after you and I recorded after the win over the Canucks, and I was taking a look at where each of these teams have important games coming up, and I feel like I circled the same one. It's those that play against, where any of them play against each other, because that's what creates separation. But at the same time, those are few and far between. A lot of these are, for some teams, they got the luck of the draw, and they got like an incredibly easy schedule down this stretch. For some teams, though, they have it tough. They have all playoff teams, and I feel like the UHC has a mix, but more towards on the tougher schedule down the road.
I think they do have a tough schedule, but 8 of the 14 are at home. They've started to play better at home. They've been a good road team. So if they can actually begin to pick it up at home too, that bodes well for them. Mm-hmm. The other thing is, even though they don't control their own destiny, Robyn, they're not far away from controlling their own destiny, meaning that when you take a look at the standings, there really is a clump of 4 teams right now, and Anaheim has kind of fallen away from the pack. But Vancouver and St. Louis at 73, Calgary and Utah at 71. And again, Utah is the lowest of those 4 for a couple of reasons. Obviously, point total is one of them, but regulation wins is another. So they don't really control their own destiny, and tie breaks are going to be hard for the Utah Hockey Club. But if they can start to take care of business, if they can play, Robyn, for them to get in, I'm going to say they probably need 700 hockey. They're going to need to win 7 out of every 10, I think, to make the playoffs. And that's not unreasonable over a 14-game stretch, but to me, that's what I think they need to do if they're going to pull it off.
And I will say that it's really interesting, Tom, and we'll go into the actual true chances. Like, we'll kind of break. I want to break things down. Maybe as much as we can in a little bit, but I did bring up a little bit of a website, Tom, and it's something that I would follow religiously when any team that I followed had at least any kind of skin in the game and it came really close, or they might make a playoff spot, even if it's slim, but it looks like they could. Playoffstatus.com, by the way, what that does is it takes a look at, winning and losing, like magic numbers, or, magic and / tragic numbers, depending on how you refer to those. But looking at this, here's what's interesting. The Canucks, the Blues, the Hockey Club all have a does not control own destiny tagline for the final wild card spot. The only team of these of that mix that do are the Flames. And really, to me, Tom, that's only strictly because they have the games in hand. If that wasn't the case, they would also have and here it's the acronym DNCD, does not control destiny. So it's like, it really is anyone's game. It's just, as you and I talked about, it is that strength of schedule. It is making sure you have to play the best kind of hockey down the road, and how well you're able to handle it.
Well, Robyn, let's be honest. Unless Minnesota drops back to the pack and makes it a 2 wild card spot opening, it's still only a 1-team opening. Mm-hmm. So out of those 4 teams, only 1 team at a time will control its own destiny. So you're always going to have 3 that do not, 1 that does, in that 4-team pack. It's interesting that it's Calgary, but as you mentioned, they played 65, while everybody else has played more than that. And now, whatever comes out of the games coming down the stretch, and as of our taping, let's see, Calgary was actually losing to Toronto pretty severely. So I'm going to go ahead and call that a loss. So one of those games in hand is going to go by the boards for the Flames. So now that's going to put the Flames at 66 games played and still at 71 points. So it'll be interesting to see if maybe, once you hit refresh on that on Tuesday, March 18th, what that's going to look like, which is when most people are going to be hearing this show. So I'm interested to see that. But you know what? I want to talk a little bit more about magic and tragic numbers. And Robyn, keeping in mind that we do have some folks who are new to the game, new to the NHL playoffs, I think we should probably go in and explain that a little bit more. So why don't we do that right after this? And today's show is brought to you in part by Upwork. Scaling your business requires the right expertise at the right time. With Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in marketing, development, design, and more. Experts ready to help you take your business to the next level. Upwork gives businesses flexibility by connecting them with top freelance talent across multiple industries, including IT, AI, web development, and marketing. Whether you need extra hands for a project or a long-term partner, Upwork makes hiring simple and affordable. Finding the right talent, look, maybe you need help with a marketing campaign. Upwork can connect you with a freelance expert who delivers incredible results. And posting a job is free and simple. And within a day, multiple qualified candidates to choose from. So visit upwork.com right now and post your job for free. That's upwork.com, upwork.com, to connect with top talent and grow your business today. And the show also brought to you by Game Time. There's nothing like watching basketball live, the energy of the crowd, the sound of the sneakers squeaking on the hardwood, and maybe even a celebrity sighting at courtside. If you want to catch a game in person, Game Time makes getting tickets easier than ever. Game Time's new feature Game Time Picks filters out all the fluff, shows you only the best deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time scrolling through thousands of tickets. I just checked the Game Time app, and there's a certain basketball tournament that's coming up here. There are amazing deals on some huge matchups coming up, and Jazz fans, you can check this out for yourself as well. Just check out the Game Time app. They even highlight those super deals I was telling you about. It gives you the best bang for your buck. Plus, you can view the seats before you buy. It gives you that wonderful view of what the court's going to look like from where you're at, or the ice, or whatever you're trying to go see. No surprise fees. Make sure you toggle on all-in pricing, and a low price guarantee. You can book with total confidence. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use our code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. Tom Callahan, Robyn Leaño here with you in the Locked On Utah Hockey Club podcast. Please subscribe if you haven't already. We love seeing the numbers go up, and that means we get more opportunity to bring you more and better topics. We just had Belle Fraser on the show not too long ago. I know that's a very popular and trending episode right now, so if you missed that, you can go back and check it out. But it also helps us to get more guests, to be able to have more access to things. And, it's great for us to be able to share our growth with you, our audience, because you guys love talking the Utah Hockey Club. We love talking the Utah Hockey Club. So thank you so much if you're already on board. All right, Robyn, magic number / tragic number. If I'm new to the sport, I'm probably maybe thinking I know what that means, but let's go ahead and define what we're talking about for teams when we use those two terms.
Yeah, I feel like any sport fan, like any crazed sport fan, has probably heard those words before. Like, maybe you're a Jazz fan, a long-time Jazz fan that has been looking into seeing how what's it going to take for the Jazz to make it into the playoffs. I know this year it ain't happening, but in any other year you might be doing that. Maybe you look into a lot of the other factors. Maybe you're a fan of an MLB team out there. Maybe you're a fan of an NFL team out there. Whatever it is, you've heard that number before. And what it is, Tom, and everyone listening here, I mean, they're two different terms. The magic number, what that number means is that's the number of games or points, depending on which number you're looking at, that a team has to win in order to essentially secure a spot in the postseason. The tragic number is essentially the opposite. That's if they lose this amount, they can no longer win that specific spot.
So obviously you want a magic number. You
Mm-hmm.
can have both. You know, especially in the hunt for a wild card spot, there can be both, and they will be different numbers. You know, the magic number could be what you need to clinch your playoff berth, but that tragic number also tells you that if your team gets cold, goes on a bad run, and a bad stretch where they're just not able to win games,
it becomes out of reach.
Right. And so what would that look like as well? And when you're as jammed as tightly, one playoff spot for 4 teams, all within 2 points of each other, both of these teams are going to be looking at both of those numbers constantly until fate decides who it is that is in that final wild card spot.
Exactly. And I'll give you the example right now. I mentioned the website I tend to look at, Tom. And right now, as we mentioned, only one of the quote 4 teams that we talk about get a magic number because they're the ones that have the quote highest chance. They're at based off points percentage. Better way to put based off point percentage. And right now, the Flames' magic number is 16. No one else has one because, as we mentioned, they don't control their own destiny. But if you look at the reverse, their tragic numbers are all pretty similar. For the wild card A, it's 15 for the Canucks, 14 for the Blues, 16 for the Flames, 14 for the Hockey Club.
And so the magic number is the number of points you would need to get to lock everybody else out. So the idea being from today for Calgary, and again, they're going to lose. We're doing this Monday night. They're going to lose to Toronto. So that number will change. But as of coming into tonight's action, they needed 16 points to lock out the other 3 teams and take that wild card spot. So that's what the difference is between the Magic and the Tragic. And on the other hand, the tragic number is if you don't get to this number of points, you're out. If you no longer have a hope of getting past this number of points, you can't possibly catch whoever is in the playoffs. And once you get to the point where you mathematically cannot catch them, i.e. San Jose Sharks, then it's over.
Exactly. And that's why everyone looks at those numbers and see whether it goes if the number goes down on that check number, you might be sweating a little bit. If it goes up, then it wouldn't necessarily go up. But if the same thing happens if your magic number goes up or down, that creates the needle, right? The needle's going to go, which direction do they go? Is it going to be out of the playoffs or in the playoffs? And it happens on a daily basis. Every single team's number will change on a daily basis, even if they're not playing. You'll see that.
Yeah. You could be sitting there and your number changes because of what happened with everybody around you. Absolutely. So, Robyn, that's why we encourage folks, hey, hit refresh on those standings every day now.
Mm-hmm.
Even if Utah Hockey Club did not play last night, you wake up first thing in the morning, you're grabbing your coffee, you're downloading our episode, and in the 1 minute it takes to download the pod, you check the standings. Do it every morning because those numbers are going to constantly be in flux because everybody around you is going to be active as well as yourself.
Yep.
So
but
a lot of moving parts to it right now.
Yep. And again, I will say that that there are a lot of websites people will use, right? And I mentioned just one, playoffstatus.com. I've used also playoff match. I think it was playoffmagic.com was another one, as well as Money Puck, which doesn't have a magic number, but it does kind of give a statistical analysis on the actual chances. So I look at all of those because I'm a true blood hockey fan, Tom, and even every year, no matter what, I'm always hitting refresh on these pages because I'm like, what are the chances? Let's see, or how far? What are the chances it's going to take for this team to make it this far in the playoffs or whatever it might be? I am a Stanley Cup playoff statistical nerd, Tom.
There's nothing wrong with that. We're going to need that. Hopefully, we're going to need that in the playoffs, right? And we're going to be talking about it, about Utah Hockey Club needing it in the playoffs. So I'm all for it, Robyn. That works for me. So, hey, speaking of which, we got a big time matchup coming with the Edmonton Oilers. So, Robyn and I, we're going to talk about that here, and then we're going to give you our take on what we think is going to happen in this one. Stay tuned.
The NCAA tournament is here, and so is the bracket breakdown.
Locked On Podcast Network and Amazon Fire TV channels are teaming up to deliver NCAA tournament coverage like never before. Watch studio shows featuring former players and Locked On's local experts as they guide you through every upset, buzzer beater, and bracket matchup.
Stream it all for free on Amazon Fire TV channel. Search Bracket Breakdown to see it all for free.
It's your team every day.
All right, Tom Callahan, Robyn Leaño here with you. And Robyn, I've got a little nugget of under the radar breaking news before we get to this Edmonton Oilers thing. And this actually slipped through. This came out a little after noon Eastern on Monday, and I actually didn't find it right away, but it has just now come to my attention that two things, okay? And one leads on to the second. Number one, we don't know what it is, but the Utah Hockey Club internally has finally settled on a nickname. There is no timeline for the release of said name at this point, but that is from Dennis Dodd of CBS. And so take that for what you will. Here's the interesting thing, Robyn. Which is it, right? I mean, you're trying to wonder to yourself, is it Outlaws, is it Mammoth? Is it going to be Hockey Club? Here may be your clue. The only trademark application that has an extension is Mammoth. So I don't know if that's the answer, or a clue, but that is just what's out there. So I just want to pass that along. But yes, that is the only one that has received an extension is Mammoth. So maybe that's your answer.
Interesting. That's definitely a way to put it. I mean, it's interesting because no matter who you survey, the amount of people that you survey, the answer will either be Mammoth or Outlaws. It's kind of like really like, it's like, we don't know, but that information does help lean towards that. So it'll be really interesting. We will find out soon if it's internally, because it's going to leak somehow. Especially, honestly, I think the way it could leak is somehow with the forwarding the info to Fanatics so they can get their jerseys started getting printed, because that needs to be done like now.
Yeah, they do. They need to get in the queue. And as I've told people before, like a little peek behind the curtain of the process is you get all of your jerseys printed in one run for the NHL. And they set up the presses to print everybody's jerseys all at once. So, and if they do it in alphabetical order, Utah has got a little more time, right? Being towards the bottom of the list. I don't know what the order is. But all 32 teams, so if you're Buffalo and Boston, and you're in the Bees up there in Carolina, they set the press at wherever they print and stitch for your team for your run of player jerseys for the season. And it goes through the press all at once. Now, most teams order multiple sets of these jerseys for a season. And a lot of times they switch out at the halfway point. So let's say, let's just talk Utah, okay? Black jerseys, there's a set for the first half of the season and a set for the second half of the season. And sometimes those will go to auction. Sometimes those will go to, you have your sports cards with the tiny strips of fabric in them. They're all earmarked for something. And then they'll switch those out at the midpoint. And then if you have a third jersey, that's another thing. But they're all run at one time. And then once your team is done, they're not coming back around to your team for another 6 months. Mm-hmm. So you have to understand that and make sure that everything is done and in line. That's why it's so important right now in the month of March to have, everything settled on. You have your trademark, your colors, all of that.
I mean, that's why the Utah Hockey Club couldn't sell fan jerseys until well into like November, December.
Yeah, they had to hurry up and get the game jerseys stitched and sent. And that interrupted the process and the cycle because they were late. And then that's why fan jerseys were few and far between. They were a short run and it was a quick one. And once they're gone for the inaugural. They're not going to make more for next year.
But I can't wait until, like, I know we got to get to our game preview, but I just can't wait until the official name actually does come, because then we can start creating some third jersey ideas.
You already know it's going to be blue. What other choice do you have?
I mean, I'm just saying how exactly it might look, because it could be a different design. It's not going to be like, I wouldn't see the same, like, the same design as your traditional home and away. It's going to have blue as as the primary color for it, but how is it going to look?
I have liked some of the ones that I've seen, the concepts online where they add a little bit of copper to it. I think those look nice.
That's the important. I think that little bit of copper adds a little bit of depth. I love it. I like what you're thinking here. All right, though. Game preview. Oilers.
What is the Oil doing these days? Actually, they've been wildly inconsistent, Robyn. And the Pacific has been wildly inconsistent.
Yeah.
The Kings were threatening to be in first place, and now they're fighting, hand to hand with Edmonton for second. Edmonton's got them by a point right now, but the Kings have 2 games in hand, and one of those games in hand will be spent on Monday night, so it'll be 1 game in hand. But they're going back and forth on it right now. The difference is that Edmonton is 500 in their last 10. They're 5-5. And I still I think the Oilers, first of all, can we please talk about the trade deadline for the Oilers, where I think they whiffed? They really didn't do anything significant. Everybody around them got better. The Stars got better. Avs got better. Jets got better. Everybody got better except Edmonton. And I don't know what they were doing. They still don't really have a goalie. And they still don't have great defense. So they're struggling right now. Plus, they've had the injury bug. Let me tell you. We know Utah had the injury bug, but Evander Kane still hasn't played a game. Trent Frederick is out. Alex Regula is out. Zach Hyman's out. Matthias Ekholm is out. And John Klingberg is out. Klingberg, how about that? Comes back from hip surgery, plays 10 games, right back out. Undisclosed injury. They say he's day-to-day. But that's a lot of guys out for Edmonton. They're struggling right now. That's 3D and 3 forwards. And Kane hasn't played all year. It's not like he's been there, but they're going through it right now. So I think this is a chance to catch a team that is normally really, really good. And even though they have McDavid and Draisaitl, which always makes them dangerous, maybe you can steal one here.
Oh, absolutely. It's definitely one of those good opportunities. And yes, it's going to be a little bit difficult playing at I think was it these days Rogers Place. It's a hard place to play. No matter who you play, no matter who you are, that is a hard place to play. So despite, as you mentioned, the Edmonton being a pretty broken team, it still will be a tough game for the Utah Hockey Club. It still will be a test to kind of show exactly what this level of confidence can bring them and how they're able to keep the momentum up and and stay on the winning track.
And Edmonton's been very good at home. They're one of 3 teams in the conference with 20 wins at home. So it is a hard building to play in. They can put the puck in the net. 214 goals for is pretty stout as well. And I meant to say division, not conference, division in the Pacific Division. But look, Utah has been better on the road. And I think Utah is playing well right now. I think Veggie's playing well right now. The defense is good, and they're finally learning to attack the net. And against a team that is weak in front of its own net like Edmonton is, this could be a recipe for success, Robyn. But if I'm going to put out a key to the game, number 1, number 2, number 3 are net front presence. They absolutely have to get in the kitchen of whoever's in net, and I presume it's going to be Stuart Skinner. You got to get in front of that guy. You got to make his life miserable and just let him know you're there. And if Utah is successful in doing that, I think they can score more than enough goals to win a game.
Yeah. And honestly, I think that, that term can be used on both sides of the ice, because you create, for defensively, if they can create enough traffic, like McDavid and Draisaitl aren't going to get enough chances. Those are the only ones you're really worried about, right? Like if you can like shut those people down, like what else are they, how else are they going to produce?
Well, I mean, the Oilers are no slouch. Like they've got weapons. Obviously, we talk about McDavid and Draisaitl because they're the biggest.
Of course.
But I mean, look at it from a standpoint of if I'm the Utah Hockey Club, I think this Edmonton team is one that you need to attack and go right into their teeth. They love to shoot the puck. They love to possess the puck. They're actually one of the more penalized teams in the league. But they shoot. That means they have the puck a lot. They score a lot. So if you're Utah, to me, that's saying that you need to win the puck battles. You need more possession time than they get. And that's how you're going to limit their chances and their opportunities. And you have to be stout in front of your own net. That means getting rid of the rebounds, no second chances. But your work begins in the offensive zone on the forecheck, recovering the puck, good solid zone entries. Once you proceed with possession, the game's a lot easier from there.
Yeah. And also I will add too, like seeing forecheck pressure is one thing, but also I want to see neutral zone a lot more than because that's where that transition happens, right? You have a really bad move in the neutral zone. You see this happen all the time, right? When we're all seeing odd man rushes come back the other way. Like,
well, exactly. No team can burn you in transition like Edmonton. That's an important thing to say.
Exactly. That's why they do have to command that neutral zone as much as they can.
Yeah, there's no team out there that can just turn and burn like Edmonton. And I mean, when Connor McDavid puts on the Jets, he's frightening.
He is like Connor McDavid. I think is definitely top 3, if not the number 1 fastest skater in the league.
He's just scary, but it's fun to watch him. It's fun to watch him if he's not playing your team. You know what I mean?
I always liked watching, and obviously we're not going to see it anymore because the All-Star doesn't exist because 4 Nations now is here. But the fastest skater competition, that's the only one I really like watching because I just like seeing especially when they started doing the tracker in their jerseys to see exactly how fast they're going, like what's their speed. And I think McDavid even hit like a top speed of like 35 miles per hour, 40 miles per hour. I was like, oh my goodness, on skates, it's incredible.
Yeah, that it is. It's absolutely nuts. And I mean, that guy's got some wheels on him. All right, Robyn, before we get out of here, FanDuel odds, Utah Hockey Club +1.5, Edmonton -1.5. So that's the spread. The money line on it is Utah Hockey Club +150, Edmonton -182, and the over-under is set at 6.5. Does any of that interest you?
Ooh, Utah has been taking a lot of these really close games. So to me, the only one that really is going to interest me right now is that money line, not the money line, is the puck line. So the spread, at that +1.5, essentially,
which for Utah is -164.
Yeah, -164, which isn't a good quote return on investment if you're looking just to make the most money out of a sports bet. But to me, sometimes I just do what I think is the best feasible, what seems to be the most attractive to me, and that's the one that's calling out to me.
I actually, I know I'm terrible with these picks. I don't think I've gotten one right yet. I'm going for the over. Because I think both these teams can score goals. So
they can.
To me, that just makes sense on the over for this one. So the over, by the way, is +110.
Okay. Yeah.
So
there we go. Let's look at anytime goal scorer, just kind of get an idea. Would be something. So Leon Draisaitl at +110, Connor McDavid at +135, Keller's at +195, Spicy Dylan Gunther at +210.
You know who I'm taking out of that list? Mr. +260 Nick Schmaltz. He's been on a tiny little heater lately, and no one's talking about it. Nick Schmaltz has been on a heater, and he's got to be the most underappreciated player on that team right now. And it's a shame because it stems from the start to the year he had, which wasn't great. But yeah, no, I like Nick Schmaltz. I like the game he's playing right now.
What about your plus 310 for Barrett Hayton?
That one's not bad either. But I don't know. Goals in 3 of the last 5 for Schmaltz and points in 4 of the last 5. I like it. I think that would be, if I was going to throw something at the wall, see what sticks, that might be where I go.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like looking at a lot of them, there were some good value picks out there, but I think those were that Schmaltz pick, I think, would be if you're looking for a prop bet to make, there you have it. I think that's a really solid one.
How about Logan Cooley for the hat trick at plus 16,000?
Wouldn't that be something?
That really would be something. You got a wild hair and decided you were right. Hey, you never know. But so Robyn, what do you think? Who comes out with this one?
I feel like with the win for the Utah Hockey Club, with the win over Vancouver and the loss to Seattle, which I think they still have a chip over their shoulder from that loss to Seattle. And I feel like that's good. They're carrying that momentum, and I feel like they want to win, and they have that hunger to them. They know every game is a playoff game to them at this point. I'm going to give it to them. I'm going to give the Utah Hockey Club with the win. I'll even give you a final score prediction on this one. I'm going to give them a 4-3 victory.
Interesting. I'm with you on this. I like Utah right now, even in Edmonton, but because Edmonton's so banged up, they've been so wildly inconsistent. I'm going to say 5-3 with an empty netter. I think Utah hits the empty net 5-3, and that gets me to my over. So that's what I'm going with.
4-3 still is still over. So
yes. No, that definitely hits the over. But I like 5-3. I think maybe there's an empty netter in there somewhere because Edmonton's going to live by the sword and die by the sword. So, well, anything else you want to fire out there before we call it a show here and get ready for Edmonton?
No, I feel like it's it's going to be a good game. Everyone pay attention and everyone just enjoy this ride because this is the closest that we've felt to a playoff spot in a long time.
Could not agree more. Absolutely. So we appreciate y'all being a part of the show here. And again, you can always reach out to us on social media anytime, anywhere. You can get us anywhere you get your podcasts. If you haven't subscribed already, please do so. Give us a like and a thumbs up over there on the YouTube side as well. And Robyn and I will check back in with you here. We're going to bring you the post game from Edmonton. Plus, we're going to keep up with the wild card race. We're checking the standings every single day now as we come down the stretch here. So for Robyn, I'm Tom. Thanks for listening and or watching to the Locked On Utah Hockey Club podcast.